Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Hearthstone PAX East Major presented by One Nation of Gamers. Of course, sponsored by GEICO, Video Game Borders Network, CyberPower PC, and our hardware partners for the event, DX Racer, Razer, and Asus Republic of Gamers. I'm TJ, and I am joined once again by the one, the only, that's admirable. What an intro. And we're about to jump into Reynad versus Th3Rat. This is probably the highest profile match that we've seen so far today. And we saw Reynad play earlier, but what are your thoughts on the Rat as a player in general, for players that might not know him? Interesting, but I believe you're muted.
Indeed, I am. Very strong player. Very competitive player as well. I know he practices a lot with 6-0 and Osaka. Two of the strongest European players in the world at the moment. Very consistently can be found in the top ranks of Legend. You know, a lot of times I log in, he's got a single digit next to his name. Sometimes he's got 4 digits next to his name, but it's usually because he's trolling around with some decks on the stream during those times. But you know, very aggressive player at the same time too. Likes to be on the offensive, try to keep players off balance, force them to use cards in ways that they're not necessarily comfortable using them, and then use that for windows of opportunity to attack. And it's a style that I'm a big fan of. And it can kind of mix it up at the same time and play heavy control decks, and just he's very well rounded. And honestly, it's kind of a surprise to me this guy hasn't been winning more tournaments, but just been focusing a lot on his ladder play. Does pretty good in the opens as well, but up there in the leaderboards for points in North America as well. I mean, this is a guy, if you haven't been paying attention to him, he's certainly one of the ones to pay attention to. And this match, certainly a big one for both of these guys.
Yeah, definitely. We saw Reynad win a match earlier in the day. And it was a match where it was pretty one-sided in his favor, other than the game number one. So, Reynad not in recent past known for his tournament performances. He just hasn't really been participating in many. You know, he's a busy guy. He's got a team to run. But we'll see now that he's got an opportunity to sort of prove himself. And granted, it is a single elimination tournament, so even if he does get eliminated, it doesn't say too much, just because of the variance. But this is a chance for him to sort of reprove himself as a really strong player, and going up against Th3Rat and beating him would be a good opportunity for him to show that he's still got what it takes, despite having to run an entire organization.
Yeah, I think the thing that to me that's most impressive is just the fact that he's brought what I consider the 4 strongest decks in the metagame. He's brought Druid, he's brought Aggro Shaman, he's brought Zoo, and we haven't seen his Warrior yet, but I'm guessing it's going to be I'm guessing it's Patron Warrior. But you know, we've seen like 3 different Warrior decks in the past month that have been creeping up. But either way, Warrior's still a very strong class right now. And to me, that's the impressive point. He's just brought what I'd consider the strongest lineup right now. Where the Rat is actually bringing Paladin and Mage in his lineup. And I know that he's a big fan of Paladin, thinks that you can build it with just a couple different changes to tune it to whatever matchups you expect to face. So I'm going to be very interested to see how he's actually built that one. I know that if he expects to see Secret Paladin, that a copy of Repentance could potentially be in this build, as well as a Ragnaros. But his Mage deck is also going to be one that's really interesting to me. I know that he has a lot of practice on Freeze Mage, but again, likes to be a very aggressive player. Wouldn't be surprised to see a Tempo Mage from him either. And looking at the way the lineups are panning out, I feel like this is Reynad favored right now. That Aggro Shaman looks like it's matching up very well versus 3 of these classes, potentially. You know, I'm guessing that he's going to go ahead and ban Warlock from the Rat. But yeah, I think Reynad's got the advantage based on the lineups.
If we're looking at a lineup that we're calling like the 4 best decks, it's hard to say that it's not favored, I'd say. So we should have the bans in just a moment. But while we're waiting, guys, if you are at PAX East, if you're on the PAX East floor, One Nation of Gamers has built an app that you can use to actually play against your friends or other players at PAX for some cash prizes, some Razer gear. It's called the Battlezone app. So if go ahead and search on your app store Battlezone Beta. If you're at PAX East, what you can do is you just log in, you put your battle.net ID in there. There's a ladder with a leaderboard and all that stuff. You can compete against Hearthstone, against other players that are playing at PAX, and win some cool prizes. So like I said, Battlezone Beta, search for. You can also head over to the GEICO gaming booth. They'll help you out there and show you around, or go to play.onog.gg for more information about that as well. So I checked it out earlier. Unfortunately, not at PAX, so I can't play against people. I was trying to search for players on my own Wi-Fi, but unfortunately, nobody in the area But a really cool thing. So if you guys want to have a chance to win some prizes, play some Hearthstone, make sure you guys head over there and check out that app.
I personally am at PAX right now, and I'm playing against somebody right now, and I just won an awesome prize. So TJ's right.
Yeah. Just
Sorry
want
you couldn't be here.
Sweet Razor headset.
Sorry you couldn't be here, buddy. We're having a great time.
Yeah, I really miss it over there. What I need is a green screen that's right behind me so I can simulate it. A green screen would just be like a recording of you just walking around in the background. Like that would be my.
You green screen in the Twitch conference that they're having, like at the front, like with DJ Wheat and Seltzer, they're like hosting all these panels.
That's me. I even have my my Twitch shirt on, so I'd fit right in.
You may notice I changed things up today. I went with my black T-shirt again today
instead of the very, 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 very dark brown. Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks almost identical to black. I like the change, but we do have the bands in. That means that we should be jumping into the match shortly. But it is Warlock ban for both players.
Yeah, not a surprise. Again, I think Warlock's just probably the strongest class. I know that the Rat is definitely going to consider it the strongest class that's out there right now. It pays a lot of attention to the statistics of the game. Knows that deck is just very powerful and wins a lot. Not only that, but he knows that Reynad's bringing Zoo if he's paid attention to the first match that happened there. And Zoo is a very frightening deck to play against. So it could just have such strong draws that you can't do anything about it. Furthermore, I think it's probably just going to match up well versus his lineup. With the Warlock ban, I think it's a little bit more weighted towards the Tempo Mage. But we're going to have to wait and see. I mean, Tempo Mage and Paladin are going to do very well versus Druid. And I know that Tempo Mage has some game versus Aggro Shaman. And it's got some good game versus Warrior as well. So I still think it's Reynad favored. I think that just the Druid and the Shaman are matching so well versus the Paladin that this could very easily be Reynad's.
Yeah, I'd say so. The Rat's a player who sort of latches on to decks also. And we remember him, if you remember the infamous best patron player in the world, a little gig that he did. A lot of players called him that, and he also called him that. And now he's sort of latched onto the Zoo deck, and that's what he's been using to climb the ladder. And so Reynad, if he's been paying attention to that or knows that anything about him, then he knows that that's his style. So Tempo Mage, look at it in all of its glory.
Not a surprise to see it. Reynad, copy of Flame Tongue and Lava Shock in his hand, as well as Doomhammer and Knife Juggler. We'll have to see how he decides to put together this hand. I would venture to say that Reynad knows that this is Tempo Mage based on the bans. And so because of that, is going to want some early action as well as stuff to kind of handle the pressure that's going to be thrown back at him. Great opening hand for the Rat, too. Sorcerer Apprentice, Mad Scientist, Arcane Blast, Ragnaros at the top end. That's a new one. But Reynad's going to start off this one quick. He's got Sir Finley into potential Coin Leper Gnome.
Yeah, we'll see what his options are. That looks like a steady shot to me, but those are all three good options. Life Tap, I'd say I'd rank them in steady shot and then Shapeshift and then Life Tap, but this is a Tempo Mage, so it could be more board focused. I was going to say maybe taking Shapeshift is a little bit better, especially since he already has Doomhammer in his hand, and Shapeshift basically pays 2 extra mana to turn Doomhammer into 2 extra damage. So effectively, once that's played, it's the exact same as Steady Shot, except it also gives you an armor. It can interact with the board a little bit more. So I do agree with the Shapeshift pickup here, given the situation, given Reynad's hand.
Yeah, I agree with it too. I mean, typically Steady Shot's going to be your best one, but the ability to impact the board with the Druid Hero Power matters a lot. I mean, you think about Shaman and you're like, oh, this is a face deck. It just goes face a lot. Not always the case. Aggro Shaman does a lot of trading to invest into its board positions. That way it can get repetitive damage out of the presence that it has on board. And that's a really important factor. And it may not be like that big of a deal, but being able to flex your hero power around that can have a pretty significant impact. And so I think that's like sort of the tiebreaker between those two. And when you consider the fact that he does have Doomhammer, I think it's just superior.
Yeah. And that's one of those things you were talking about, using the spells here, using his cards to take a little bit more control of the board. We do have a secret up. It is going to be Duplicate. We can't quite see it, but it is Duplicate. So that secret doesn't help too much in this matchup. It's a little bit slower. You don't get a sort of immediate board impact like you do with Mirror Entity, or you counterspell even more so after a coin is played.
Yeah. You can kind of tell the live tournament experience here difference between the two players, where Rat is like sitting very far forward and focused and not paying any attention to the camera that's capturing him, where Reynad very sit back, relaxed, understands the camera is a big part of what's going on. I mean, it's a really small, subtle thing, but I think that's like, I feel like it's such a big thing to take note of. Yeah. Reynad looks so calm and collected, and the Rat looks very almost nervous, I'd say.
Making sure that the camera is low enough to capture that his top 2 buttons are undone.
I'm certain that's exactly what he's thinking about right now. He's like got it loaded up on the side, and he's like, perfect position. There we go. TJ's going to love this.
That's exactly what he's thinking. I know it. But secret up, Reynad doesn't know what it is, hasn't tested anything, so he's got to be worried about counterspell, he's got to be worried about mirror entity, and he wants to make sure that this Doomhammer is going to come out as quick as possible. So, actually just going to trade in. Okay, so going to go with the coin Doomhammer next turn, especially after seeing this duplicate. Going to know that that's going to be out of the way, but he's going to be dealing with a lot of damage being represented on board. He hasn't put much damage. He hasn't taken control with minions in the early game.
That is a big draw from the Rat. I actually really like this play from Reynad too. He plays around the most potential secrets when he plays it this way, and gets actually pretty unlucky, I think, to run into duplicate in this situation. Yeah. He played around counterspell, played around mirror entity, didn't play around duplicate. It happens to be duplicate, and then the Rat also draws water elemental to follow up.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, this presents quite a bit of an issue here.
Just a minor one.
A minor issue, because now Reynad just doesn't have a efficient way to deal with this. He can Lava Burst, coin, hero power, and hopefully develop a minion the next turn against the Rat developing nothing. And, yeah, that's his only out. Or he can Lava Burst, Lightning Bolt, which seems a lot worse.
He could also just take some hits from the water elemental. I mean, at this point, the water elemental is just, it's going to get value some way or another, whether it's the investment of your entire turn, the investment of your card economy, or just the fact that it's, just a big, tough presence to deal with.
Or all of the above.
I think this is, again, probably his most effective way to deal with this is just to continue to play it a little bit slower, take his time, understand that the Doomhammer is providing a lot of longevity in terms of his damage. And if the Rat doesn't piece together a good assault here, that it could be enough to win the game just by taking it slow. But 2 Sorcerer's Apprentice, I do know the name of that card, into Arcane Intellect. This gives the Rat a lot of cards. And a 3rd Sorcerer's Apprentice.
That's a free Arcane Intellect next turn. But I can imagine that Reynad's going to trade in here to at least one of these. And, yep, that's what he does. He can't afford to leave too much on the board because the recurring damage is going to be a little bit too much. That's a lot of burst. And the Rat just going to continue to draw into some more burn spells. 2 mana fireballs. There's a free flame cannon.
Yeah,
there's a mad scientist.
This is looking really bad. This game snowballed really hard, quite literally because it was duplicate, and then the Rat also drew water elemental. The water elemental was a jackpot draw, and now Reynad just found himself in this position. Does have Doomhammer Rockbiter. That's 10 points of damage, but I don't think he can use that right now. He's just going to have to continue to clear this board presence and hope for the best afterwards. It's going to be a Lightning Bolt into 2nd Doomhammer swing.
Yeah, just trying to get rid of that recurring damage, but I just don't think it's going to be enough because the Rat even has the wow, 2nd water elemental right off the top.
And it's going to shut off that Doomhammer too. And this is kind of like one of the differences I think that the Rat would put in here. I've seen so many different builds of Tempo Mage. I've seen Piloted Shredders. I personally have been playing a lot of the spare part version recently. And the Rats come with water elementals to try to offset turns just like this one. But it's a lot of damage incoming from that Doomhammer. 14 points. I'm sorry. 12 points of damage. This is going to take out the water elemental as well. And down to 15, he's not going to like seeing this Ragnaros.
Yeah. You know what? I don't blame him. I wouldn't have liked seeing it anyway. At this point, this is where I'd button back up that top button.
Hey, the perfect draw.
Yeah, exactly what he was looking for. This is actually looking a lot like the game 1 from Reynad's last series. He still managed to win, but the game 1 was just brutal. It's out of the control, not in his favor. So it's not lethal quite yet.
Oh no, that's lethal.
Well, in his eyes.
Yeah. In his eyes, it's not lethal.
Yeah, so he's going to keep trying to fight back on the board here. Hopes to take out, but Knife Jugglers aren't going to snipe out their brethren. That's going to be the Rat. Taking game one pretty convincingly with Tempo Mage, of all things.
Water Elemental being the real big difference, I think, in this one. The first one was just so brutal to Reynad's Tempo. There was really not many turns where he had opportunity to recover. I mean, just the fact that the Rat was cranking out Sorcerer's Apprentice, had effective spells to use afterwards. He did what Tempo Mage does. Keeps the tempo.
Yeah, exactly. So the Rat's got Druid and Paladin remaining, and he's got to be pretty happy because Tempo Mage is probably his least consistent deck out of his lineup, assuming that Secret Paladin and Zoo are the other two. Because Druid and Secret Paladin can win against just about everything, where Tempo Mage does have matchups where they struggle with. So now Reynad's got to fight back, even though you mentioned a little bit earlier, and we talked about it a little bit. You said that Reynad's lineup's probably favored. Even with that considered, the Ratchet's got strong decks overall, and you can't underestimate that.
No, you never can. I mean, that's a lot of what it comes down to, too, when you have two very strong players facing off against each other. The draws can decide a lot of it. Oh, that is an aggro Druid, too. Whew, this matchup is so tough for aggro Shaman. I have played on both sides of this a lot. And something that the Druid does very well in this matchup is you kind of go 1-for-1 with your early cards, but then you have Druid of the Claw and Fel Reaver as your turn 5s. And those provide so much damage when the two of you have to fight for the board constantly, and it doesn't really end up in one player's favor. It's just kind of back and forth. Having that large threat on turn 5 is the tiebreaker. And so because of that, knowing that this is aggro Druid, if I didn't know this before, I definitely would have said that the Rat was favored in this matchup just because of the power he has versus Shaman at the moment. But wow, what a different kind of game. I mean, normally I think Druid is favored versus aggro Shaman anyway, but this one in particular.
All right, well, this is going to be a pretty interesting matchup. I feel like Druid also has a much more consistent board presence early on. They have more likely to draw into creatures that they can play in the early game, as opposed to aggro Shaman, who has a lot larger of a percentage of their deck is spells, and they can use spells to fight back on the board. But like you mentioned, just having the reload, having the powerful drops on turn 5, even if you line up any of those with a Doomhammer, if you line up Druid of the Claw, if you line up Fel Reaver with a Doomhammer, you'd always, or almost always, rather take either the Druid of the Claw or the Fel Reaver in place of it in such a fast matchup. So.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Innervate in the hand is always welcome at this point. The Flame Tongue Totem here, I actually like the Flame Tongue from Reynad because he's got Argent Horse Rider ready for the next threat. And if the Rat doesn't really have significant action this turn, you could even just cast Feral Spirit afterwards. Or maybe just even Rockbiter Totem. I mean, it opens up all of his options for the following turn.
Another night on the prowl.
Now, if he just chosen a Rockbiter, sure, he'd be gotten 2 damage out of that Abusive Sergeant, but I don't think that's really his concern at the point. So, just a 3-2 for the Rat. Going to be a little bit more patient with this Innervate. Looks like he's eyeing Druid of the Claw next turn.
Yeah. The Feral Spirit does protect his Flame Tongue Totem, so it's sort of a necessity, but it also does mess up his curve.
Yeah, this is actually going to be a little bit painful. I mean, charge Druid of the Claw into the 2-3, run the 3-2 over the 4-3, and then it's a 4-2 versus a Flame Tongue Totem and 2 mana.
Yeah. He'd have to just Rockbiter next turn, and then you're just all sorts of vulnerable, giving complete initiative over. He would have Doomhammer for the following turn, but once again, we're going to be in a situation where the 4-drops, the stronger overall curve is really going to matter.
This is tough. That Overload really mucking up this game plan. It does have Doomhammer available, but again, he's going to be facing down Knife Juggler and a Stealth 3-2, so not able to clear up the entire board. And if the Rat manages to draw another 5-drop, you are looking at a tough spot for Reynad.
You're going into turn 5, so there's really, you can charge in hopes that you can just take out the Flame Tongue Totem, but going into turn 5, you're most likely going to see Doomhammer. So we'll have to see, though. It is a choice, like a consideration going into this turn to try and go for the 50-50 and take it out. And he is going to go for it. Doesn't hit it.
Not today. He's going to put some damage on it, though. Mm-hmm. Set it up for the hero power next turn. It looks like you're lined up to spend the 3 mana in your hand plus the hero power. But we've seen Reynad have to use Doomhammer defensively for quite a while now. And while I don't think it's bad to use defensively here, I think it's definitely in his favor. Typically you just want to be ahead on the board and use that card to clock your opponent.
Well, the Rat's just showing small stuff, but he is going to be able to take out the board here. But Reynad, even though he hasn't put a single point of damage on the Rat, he hasn't taken too much damage, and he also has card advantage, and his card quality is okay, and he's got the recurring damage from the Doomhammer. So I'd say he's still in a pretty good spot. It's just going to be hard to tell. Right now, they're both so low on cards that the Rat could just, brick on his next 2 turns, or he could draw into the most impactful cards in his deck on the next 2 turns, like Fell Reaver, like the second Shooter of the Claw.
To me, the fact that Reynad has been able to get such effective use out of the Doomhammer and have Lava Burst back behind this, I feel like it's just such a big advantage to him. Like, he takes another 6 damage this turn, drops to 14, has Argent Horse started to trade into the Darnassus Aspirant, and then play Tunnel Trog back behind this. Rat's investing his hero power into the 2-1, and then Reynad clears up the rest of it with Lava Burst, Doomhammer, Abusive Sergeant, and has the board.
Yeah,
Go for the Lava Burst, though.
Wow.
Yeah, not too surprised by that. I mean, Argent Horse Rider and Abusive Sergeant it's pretty similar to the same thing. It doesn't take as much damage this way, also, from the Doomhammer. So this is a totally reasonable alternative. This actually might be a little bit better too. Oh, awful draw for the Rat. Yeah, this game boiled down to Reynad just being able to fight the board so well and then follow up with the Doomhammer to check the last couple of threats that it just went massively in his favor. And that's kind of like the power of Aggro Shaman in the aggro matchups, is that if it can go 1-for-1 and then have Doomhammer, you make up all the advantage that you would have normally had by having a stronger curve just by having card advantage.
Yeah. The Rat's still in it, though. He can negate at least 1 damage a turn with the hero power, and he can probably buy 3 more turns in order to draw into Force of Nature. But it's going to be really tough because Reynad's going to be doing quite a bit of damage per turn, and that's if he doesn't even draw into additional burn, or he doesn't get a taunt totem over his next couple turns. It's like so many things have to go right here for the Rat if he wants to piece together a win.
Yeah, so this is actually a turn where Reynad needs to start counting that damage and see how long it's going to take to actually kill the Rat. Because ideally, if he can't kill the Rat in the next couple turns, he'd like to get a taunt totem on board so that way he doesn't die to Force Nature Savage Roar.
Yeah.
So this turn is going to be spent calculating what the next 4 or 5 turns look like. And it looks like he's done it pretty quickly. He's going to start rolling totems.
Even Spell Power Totem has a lot of value in this situation, just because every point of burn that you draw does 1 more damage. So he's just got to make sure he pieces together sufficiently. His Doomhammer only has, effectively, 8 damage remaining, unless he draws into some sort of altering effect like Sir Finley into Shapeshift or Rock Better Weapon.
Not willing to expend any more life, and I can't blame him. If you are at 12, the Taunt Totem will not play around Force Nature Savage Roar as much. And in this situation, he's just trying to keep himself as a high life total as he possibly can and try to disrupt the Rat's damage. I mean, the Rat looks like his hero power is aimed at that 2-1 right now. Wow, actually draws the Force Nature too. This is going to come awfully close. Reynad needs to roll a Taunt Totem. And he needed that attack to happen as well.
Oh, man. It's Reynad's going to have basically a 50-50 chance to draw into a Taunt Totem. He's got 1 chance this turn, so it's going to be a little higher than that because he's got a chance this turn. It's a Healing Totem, so next turn he needs a Taunt Totem.
Well, next turn he's going to have Lethal on this board, too. I mean, he's pushing a lot of damage this turn. Yeah, Lava Burst is going... He's not actually using the Lava Burst this turn.
Okay.
It's Th3Rat at 13. I mean, he's still threatening here, though. He's got 6 from Lava Burst, 3 from the Tunnel Trog. That's 9. 2 more on the Tunnel Trog. It's 10, 11. 12 with the Haunted Creeper. And then 13, the Rat needed... Looked like Innervate this turn.
He's still alive, I think.
Silence the Tunnel Trog?
Yeah.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh my gosh, he is still alive. Reynad needs a Taunt Totem here, and it's 50-50 right now.
He's dead, even with Taunt Totem now. He managed to put it in. So that's going to be the game going over to the Rat. Oh, man. Even with the Taunt Totem, he's still dead. And that would be Reynad having to trade into the Keeper of the Grove, which would mean he'd give up damage on the board. Wow.
Wow, you're right. He's dead. That's unbelievable. He
Yeah.
needed Feral Spirit this turn. He needed quite literally exactly Feral Spirit.
Yeah.
Could he have won this game? I don't think he could have. Like, even if he would have Lava Burst for 6 last turn, he'd have gotten an extra 2 points of damage out of that. So the Rat would be at 6 this turn, and Reynad would only have 4 points of damage. Yeah, I mean that Keeper of the Grove shut off the ability to win this turn unless Reynad had drawn a burn spell.
Yeah, I think that was really well played by both players. I don't think either player could have been more efficient with their damage or more efficient with their lines of play. So maybe we can go back and nitpick, but that was a well played game, and that's going to be the Rat.
Wow.
Going over, picking up that Force of Nature actually ends up being huge.
Yeah,
because that was his only out, and he also needed to pick up maybe just Keeper of the Grove would have been his only way to survive there at the end.
Would have been okay.
Oh yeah, Druid of the Claw would have been okay as well.
Second Force Nature to clear, maybe.
Yeah, so
But
he did have quite a few ways to survive, but he needed a way to survive plus the other Force of Nature or one Force of Nature to be able to win the game. So well played at spotting his condition and going for it, but that's got to be pretty brutal for Reynad. And moving into game number 3 here, Rat has a 2-0 lead, which means he's on match point. Reynad looks like it has a Control Warrior.
Yeah, Control Warrior for Reynad, and you saw a copy of Repentance in the Rat's opening hand. So alongside that, I imagine we're going to see a Ragnaros in here as well. This is going to be kind of aimed at fighting the Secret Paladin mirror very well. If you play Mysterious Challenger and get Repentance going into their Mysterious Challenger turn, you have a major advantage at fighting that battle. And in the meantime, it's going to be double Deathspite, Fiery War Axe Slam, Revenge for Reynad versus Avenge, Knife Juggler, Blessing of Kings, Pilot Shredder, and Tyrion for the Rat. And I know the Rat's got a ton of experience in this matchup as well. But with this kind of opening hand, Reynad's going to be able to kill so many things in a row.
Yeah. This is the hand that you're looking for. Lots of weapons. Lots of weapons. He still needs to draw into some minions to fight back on the board, especially with Piloted Shredder. Needs to pick up... Ooh, that is...
Not
maybe
a
the
good
worst
turn 3.
Yeah, maybe the worst draw on the deck. Yikes.
Yeah, he's going to play the Redemption in hopes that Reynad is not going to kill the 1/1. It's kind of representing like Noble Sacrifice Avenge, I think, with a play like this.
Yeah.
And he's going to want to play Pilot Shredder and hope that Reynad prioritizes the Pilot Shredder. But I think Reynad's going to go ahead and attack here too, because the time that this is a varied secret, when it's not Noble Sacrifice, you get information from it. And the times that your opponent has Redemption down, you get mega rewarded. So I actually really like this call from Reynad to go ahead and attack here.
Yeah. But we're starting to get into those scary turns. Blessing of Kings is going to push it out of range of that Fire War Axe and the Death's Bite.
Sludge Butcher can kind of slow this down a little bit, but this pressure is going to very quickly mount.
Yeah. Let's see. So at least Starseeker still challenges what's on the board, and he gets to keep the coin to push out more stuff in the next coming turns.
There goes the map to the Golden Monkey into the deck. He's got a golden coin there, too. Just noticed that.
He
It's
does.
an all golden warrior deck.
Yeah, warrior decks aren't as wallet warrior-y as they once were, because you don't put quite as many late game legendaries in your deck as you used to. Well, you can.
It's the official term for it.
Yeah, but if you, as long as you have golden Elise, I mean that's the important one.
Well,
then-
warrior E.
Yeah,
Is that hyphenated at the end of warrior E?
yeah, exactly right.
Revenge comes out for the Rat. And 7-4, not going to be checked by anything this turn. Whirling Zap-O-Matics to drop. That is almost certainly going to force Bash.
Yeah,
That is a terrifying one. Sludge Belchers sets a road hump into this. Does set up the Revenge next turn, so I kind of like this. Take 3 damage, set up the Revenge.
yeah, a big old road hump.
And the Rat's just
Is there
gonna
anything
continue
that he
to-
gets punished by? I don't think so.
Iron Beak Owl.
Yeah. That'd be 14 damage.
Blessing King's number 2, maybe?
Yeah, but even then, you'd still be able to... you wouldn't be able to remove it, I suppose. But that would mean your opponent would probably push a lot of damage. Maybe put you below 12, perhaps.
Yeah, Rat's going to hang on to Knife Juggler here. Wants to have something back behind in case he gets brawled or revenged in this spot. Time 17 for Reynad. I wonder if there's ever a chance that he's not using Deathbite this turn. I suppose there is now with the bash. Like, if you just bash, your opponent drops to 1 health and you revenge it away.
Yeah, but you also have to factor in the Avenge. Right? That was Avenge.
Yeah, that was Avenge. And I think Reynad's anticipating this being something else. So where this lands is actually really important this turn. Lands on the worst one.
It lands on the best one.
Is it?
Yeah, imagine if it had landed on the Whirling Zap-O-Matic and brought it up to 6 attack, and you couldn't remove it.
Oh, I meant the worst one for the Rat.
Oh, the worst one
Definitely
for the
best one
Rat.
for Reynad,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. Yeah. I agree.
5 extra damage. Eating 5 damage a turn is not comfortable, though. Yeah, another secret. That secret is Repentance at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
We saw it play there from the Rat's hand.
No minions for Reynad, though. He's basically just got removal. Is removal going to be enough?
Oh no, Tyrion's back behind this too. This is
Yeah.
gonna be tough. I mean, I'm anticipating revenge right here. Armor of Shield Slam's like so good though.
Yeah, if you know you're going to be in a good spot. You know your opponent's not going to reload the board if you use revenge here because they only have 1 card. So I think you just go ahead and revenge. Shield Slam's got a lot more value.
Yeah, I agree, especially when you get Shield Block in your hand. Now the debate on coin armor up. This is actually kind of a tough one, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's going to conclude doesn't need to go ahead and do that, and that's going to be Tyrion for the Rat, putting his faith in the light. Last card from his hand that he had left. This does not feel comfortable. Just replace Deathbite.
Replace Death.
See what I mean? 4. He doesn't even have the mana to do that, actually. Yeah, he's got to dig. Deathlord's got to be a welcome draw at this point. That looks really good right now.
Yeah, it's just gonna block damage, and even though it'll get rid of the Divine Shield, though. Hopefully, you get something pretty inconsequential from the Deathlord, or you're gonna take a lot of damage.
Yeah, Keeper of Oldemite's drawn. No difference here, I'd say. Just run over the Deathlord. Eating the Divine Shield, I think, is the important thing for him right now, because he needs to be able to get off a Shield Slam, and he needs to also get some value from the Deathbite. 6/6 lands on the board from that Deathlord, though.
Who cares if it doesn't pull secrets? It's still a 6/6. Reynad doesn't draw a Brawl, and he only has 1 of those Shield Slams to remove something big from the board. So I can imagine the Rat here is just going to load up. You can't really afford not to. He's thinking about it, but I don't think he can really afford to hold back at this stage.
Yeah, it's kind of a fine balance. I mean, you have to think about, too, like, if you're winning this badly, and the only way for your opponent to really get back in the game is with a top deck, you know, considering what the board looks like, if you just hold back, you know, how much of a difference does that make? And here his holdback is going to get punished just a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
But this is still a really tough spot for Reynad. I mean, he's facing now 12 points of damage on the board. He's only got 1 removal spell, and the rest of the thing is just road humps. He's just got time. You know, he has to have this build to something, or eventually the advantage can build to an insurmountable point.
Yeah. This is...
He's making the most of it, but it's just a tough spot.
He's just buying time, really.
Oh
man.
Nelly.
But
boy.
that... It has the potential to just hit a 1/2, which isn't that good. You sort of want to guarantee that rag's going to have a good target, but
yeah,
I guess...
It is much less about it being played this turn and much more about him having access to that card right now.
Yeah. Slam. can cycle through more. And Reynad is starting to build up a bit of a health pool here, build up a bit of an armor pool.
All these 5/5s very welcome right now, I'd say.
Yeah, especially shield maiden, because not only is it 5/5, it also puts him even further out of range, and eventually Reynad's just going to sort of outvalue the Rat. He's going to have these big minions, and actually, I was about to say the Rat has a lot of dead draws still left in his deck since he hasn't played a Mysterious Challenger from hand, so he's still got a lot of secrets left.
This is the time where you turn your life total into a resource. Use these Ashbringers to start taking out threats, and then just drop the Ragnaros and let this pound the damage in the meantime. This is a tough spot for Reynad. He does not have a way to answer this Ragnaros right now.
Yeah. He does have potential removal here if he draws into... Oh, Harrison Jones!
That's got to be a welcome draw right now.
He needs a removal spell or a big game hunter for this Rag. Shield block, he can still pick up a second Shield Slam. I do believe he has one. This is going to come down to it. He can go for sort of the consistency here and play Shield Maiden to try and soak up some Rag shots, but... oh, man. Brawl as well.
It's pretty brutal. I mean, at 20, I still don't think he's quite comfortable, but it's getting to the point to where he's so close to turning the corner. I mean, the fact that the Rat still has, a couple of noble sacrifices and a competitive spirit potentially left in his deck, a big brawl is going to change the way this board looks. And the Rat's going to continue to play as though brawl's not there. I don't know where you want this Ragnaros shot to go.
Face!
I mean, face is good, but is the Harrison better? I mean, both of his targets are good right now.
Face is best.
TJ knows it. I wonder if there's ever an argument for trading here.
It's too late now.
Yeah, 8 to the dome.
Correct line of play.
Yeah, this is going to be the brawl for sure. And I'll tell you what, Reynad needs that 5-1 to win.
And he needs Rag not to win. Okay. I'll take it. Decent outcome for Reynad.
Well, it's going to be a tough
Middle of the road.
Next one, too.
Yeah, he's going to have to find a way to answer Dr. Boom next also. And he's thinking right now, what's better here? He can coin Shield Maiden. Is there any? He's thinking if there's anything that kills him. If he plays Deathbite, will he die? But either way, he doesn't because. Yeah, either way, he plays around it because there's a minion not on the board, so that means Blessing Kings is in and out. So he finds it, and Deathbite also activates Execute if something big is played that he can't deal with just a Deathbite. So smart play.
Yeah, well, that's a tough one.
Yeah,
Shielded Minibot as well. I mean, this is looking like need Execute, need Shield Slam. Bingo.
There she blows.
Now the problem with this is that he's still threatened to take a lot of damage from these Boombots. And if he chooses to use the Deathbite first, 6, he's vesting the rest of his turn into Shield Maiden, Arm Up, Shield Slam. So he can clear the Doctor Room either way. But he's got to think about, does he want the Shield Maiden to ever absorb damage here from the Boombots potentially and try to sacrifice the 5/5 for the extra life?
I think he needs to keep the Shield Maiden around to have something to contest on the board because other than Fiery Warx and a Grom, he doesn't have a way to deal with a reasonably sized minion should his Shield Maiden die if he uses it as a way to absorb damage. Now, Shield Maiden getting killed by the Boombots, I guess isn't too likely, but it is a definite possibility. So he is going to go for hoping the Shield Maiden here is going to absorb damage. There's also the chance that he just holds onto the Deathbite and doesn't attack.
Yeah,
that's exactly what he's going to do.
I don't think that this is bad by any stretch of the means. I actually think this is really good because one of the draws he's weak to, if he chooses to use the Deathbite, is Muster for Battle, which the Rat has not played yet. And this deep into the deck, that's not that unlikely of a draw, and he's going to have a way to answer it eventually. So holding on to this Despite, I actually think is probably the best play.
Options.
Yeah, and this means that Muster for Battle is not playable. These boombots could be a big deal. Taking out this Shield Maiden could mean a lot for the Rat. It'd mean that his Loatheb would be protected for 2. That means he can attack him with Minibot.
Yeah, and just start opening up. Doesn't want to. I don't think you want to Muster for Battle straight in that Despite. It looks like. I mean, this is a prime board to get Despite onto.
3 mana, Lights Justice. Yeah, the Justicar Chewheart should probably lock out the game when it's played. Also, Reynad's going to just try and put him on a clock here. Throw down the Grom, force him to deal with it. Just be left with a 2/2 on the board and start swinging in for 10. And that Boombop does 1, so I don't think the Rat's got a way to deal with this at all in his deck. Even if he draws Blessing of Kings, that means he's still going to have to spend that health attacking.
He needs to draw a Quartermaster.
Yeah, that's what he needs.
Yeah, well, here we go. Grom has put a big clock on the Rat at this point. Reynad's about to tank up.
Yeah, he can just armor up, tank up, armor up again. He's going to gain 6, which means he's going to go up to 15 life. There's going to be 6, 7, 8, 9 damage represented on board, so there's not a single card in the deck that can kill him, except for Quartermaster. And Reynad's thinking right now, is the Rat just that crazy enough to put a Quartermaster in his deck? I don't think there's anything else that kills him. He would need 6 damage from hand. That would have to be able to go through Grom Hellscream. So that means Avenging Wrath isn't a possibility. Blessing of Kings doesn't kill him. Divine Favor into Blessing of Kings plus True Silver Champion would kill him if he only played 1 card.
It's looking like he wants to play the Fiery War Axe or potentially even to execute this turn as well. He's just going to armor up and then come to this grand tournament that we're having here at PAX East, the Hearthstone Major, and tank up.
Tank. Puts him at 5, so I think this is just a win for Reynad. Oh, Mysterious Challenger could block things. Can he trade in here?
Oh, he can't clear the whole board, though.
Yeah. But
now, the Rat's perspective is that he can isolate the Grom. And so his goal is going to be to isolate the Grom, push as much damage as he can, play Mysterious Challenger, hope that the Noble Sacrifice will keep the Grom from blocking this. But Reynad's got Fiery Orax in hand. We're going to game number 4, boys.
Indeed. Can Reynad mount a comeback in this series after a brutal start going behind 0-2? The Rat's still going to have to find a win with Secret Paladin. Reynad's 2 decks remaining are Aggro Shaman and Druid, I think was his 3rd deck.
This is eye for an eye. Can he die?
You always, if it's eye for an eye, you concede out of respect for your opponent.
Is just going to attack. Armor up would have prevented eye for an eye from tying this game, I think. Tank up there. That would be way nitpicky.
Yeah.
The critical turn of this game was Reynad holding on to the Despite when he was facing down the Boombots and the Shield Maiden. If he had chosen to use the Despite that turn, he wouldn't have been able to mount the offense to actually push for the damage to win. So holding on to the Despite that turn and just eating the damage from the board was actually the best play he could have made. That was what was needed to win that game. Very good move from him.
Expertly played. And that means we're going to a game number 4. Reynad's going to throw out the Druid, and the Rat, once again, still trying to find a win with that Secret Paladin.
Yeah. Well, Swipe is definitely a good card versus Paladin. But Wild Growth Innervate, I imagine he wants a little bit more action with this. The Rat, meanwhile, I imagine everything but this Shield and Minibot's going to get pitched back.
Yeah. All right. Maybe some argument with the coin to hold on to Mysterious Challenger, but probably not against Druid. You really need to just have board presence early on, and a lot of your win condition focuses on you taking control of the board before they do. Because as soon as the Druid takes over the board, you're just 1 or 2 turns away from being comboed out of the game. So We're going to have to see. But of course, the players are going to hold on to their entire mulligans. This does seem customary. You don't want to give any additional information over to your opponent. And sometimes the amount of cards that you hold on to or throw away can determine that.
He's going to keep Blessing of Kings and the Mysterious Challenger. Wow. The Shielded Minibot. Okay, so this is something that's really interesting. I'm guessing the Shielded Minibot has greatly influenced the way that the Rat feels like this game's going to end up panning out and wants to go for turn 2 Shielded Minibot and a turn 3 Blessing of Kings to offset the tempo here. Reynad's going to have turn 2 Pilot Shredder, though, to start contesting this.
Did he already mulligan away and the cards just showed up as green to us? Or did he really keep those? Because that's a crazy keep. I mean, I understand Blessing of Kings sometimes. But Blessing of Kings and Dr. Boom, I think that we were just getting a little bit of maybe a graphical error and that the cards were still green. Who knows? Who knows? I don't know.
I mean, I guess if your plan is to curve into Mysterious Challenger and you think like you have the cards to do it, that keeping those is not a bad thing. Like you do ensure that you have them. Goodness, it feels like a very greedy keep. Right, I'm gonna go ahead and trade into the Haunted Creeper here. And that's gonna take an opportunity to Cog Hammer.
Right into the Harrison Jones.
And Mana Addict's gonna stick around. That belongs in a museum. That card economy is welcome right now too. This hand was looking very, very scarce.
Picks up a play to make for next turn as well with the Druid of the Claw. Has combo plus double swipe. This is looking good for Reynad now that he is probably not going to lose control of the board, and he also has combo. So once he starts putting on that damage, it's going to stick, and he's going to be able to close out the game, likely on turn 9.
Yeah, losing that Cog Hammer was brutes.
Should I?
And now he doesn't even want to use the coin because he wants to be able to coin out Mysterious Challenger next turn for the highest possible power. But without the coin, his play basically just boils down to Blessing of Kings and trade in. He can also just Shielded Minibot and Haunted Creeper and effectively just hope his opponent, hope Reynad doesn't have a swipe.
Yeah, this is looking tough. I mean, how does he make a play here that generates a board presence eventually? I mean, I guess it's just Shielded Minibot, Haunted Creeper, and hope your opponent doesn't really have a strong response. You trade in the Mana Addict here? Yeah. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Still kind of a tough spot for Reynad. I mean, Druid of the Claw is definitely looking like a good play with that 2/2 Shielded Minibot.
He can completely move the board here, but he's using a lot of resources. He's basically using up his whole turn. He plays Wrath for 1, and then he swipes. Or he can Hero Power into the Shielded Minibot and swipe. His hand going into the next turn isn't amazing. I guess he does have a way to deal with the Mysterious Challenger should it come down. But Wrath for 1, I think, did have some merit there to try and cycle through his deck, maybe draw into some more threats, potentially a BGH to make the clear the next turn quicker. But looks like the Rat's just going to forego the Mysterious Challenger and try and take control of the board. He figures, well, a swipe was just played.
2 juggles into the Harrison means it dies too. So this might be a force here from Reynad. I mean, he may be forced to swipe this again. And if he swipes again, that's going to give Rat a very clean couple of turns. Not only that, but the knowledge that 2 swipes are gone really changes the way that you can play your hand.
Yeah, Reynad could also just... I mean, this turn he could swipe face, put Rat down to 16, and Hero Power down the Knife Juggler. Then he'd just be like 2 damage to the face away from being able to close out the game with Force Nature Savage Roar. But you always have to factor in the Mysterious Challenger. And even though your opponent had a chance to play it last turn but didn't... Okay, well, he doesn't decide to swipe face.
Yeah. I think this is okay. I mean, if you're going to get the charge damage for Druid of the Claw next turn, like if that's the plan you anticipate, swiping the Knife Juggler just saves you a few extra points of health.
Do those points of health really matter, though? Okay, well, if he's going to Wild Growth, then it makes sense, but... I don't know. Okay. That's what he goes for.
I'll go through. We'll give him early access to combo. Mysterious Challenger's coming down, though. And this is unchecked unless Reynad wants to use combo, which I guarantee you, using combo to clear is not in his mind right now.
And it is a full tree.
Yeah, so able to clear up the token. Very important here. He knows the Repentance is down. So, charge in here. Takes him to 15. You're 1 point of damage off of really getting this done. But Reynad anticipated this really well, which was hero power into Wrath for 1 into Druid of the Claw. So that was the intention with the Wild Growth, was to make sure that he got this clean turn.
Yeah.
So good foresight. Ooh, Innervate gets picked up.
Where shall I strike?
The Rat's got another copy of Noble Sacrifice in his hand.
But is he going to play it? I mean, I don't see why he wouldn't. You're at 15, which might make you feel a little bit comfortable, but how comfortable? I mean, he's also going to have to trade in this Mysterious Challenger into the Druid of the Claw to play around combo. So, and is he going to have enough time? Is he going to have enough damage to piece together before Reynad, eventually combos him out? He will be able to play Dr. Boom this turn. He'll have to trade. He'll be left with 17, 18, 19, 20 damage on the board going in the next turn, plus Blessing of Kings from hand would be 24. So, if we have perfect information here, we see that Dr. Boom plus Noble Sacrifice is the best play that he can make along with trading. That's exactly what he's going to do.
Wow.
So Savage Roar off the top would still do it.
He needs quite literally Savage Roar and Savage Roar only. Wait, is Living Roots enough?
It is.
12, 13, 14. No, it's still only 14 points damage.
Oh, 14 points, yeah. Yeah. Because of the note, yeah. Damn.
Okay, so what are the other options here too then? I mean, can you clear off the Mysterious Challenger, deal enough points of damage to face, and then hope to rip a Savage Roar next turn? Like, force into your Savage Roar this turn. Use your face, clear the Noble Sacrifice. Put a tree into the 10-5. Go ahead and Living Roots, finish it off. Deal 8 points of damage, drop the Rat down to 7. Have Druid of the Claw for 4 points of damage out of hand.
You also just don't know what secret it is. He could have just gone for it.
Sees Noble Sacrifice. Oh, he can charge Druid of the Claw into the 10-5 and use Living Roots as well, and then have Force Nature Savage Roar Innervate Hero Power from 15 next turn as well.
Yeah.
So this actually ensures that this was a way better way to do this.
Where shall I strike?
Oh, he gets it off just in time too. Yeah, much better setup from Reynad. Good spot from him.
Yeah.
And the Rat needs a taunt. This is taunt or bust.
That's not a taunt.
7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I see 16 points of damage and then no way to survive. Wow, excellently played by Reynad. This is absolutely perfect play at the end of the game.
Very impressive. And the Rat has to suspect that he's dead, judging by the lineup plays from Reynad, keeping him at 15 health, making sure that he had that there wasn't enough damage on the board to kill him, but that Reynad would still have enough the following turn. Reynad knows that there's no Noble Sacrifices left. Sludge Belcher would be just about the only thing that could stop him from winning the game this turn. Very well played, and that means we're going to game number 5. This series has definitely delivered on all fronts.
Woo! What a game.
Yeah.
Just absolutely perfect. God, you gotta love games like this, TJ.
Yeah, and this means that it's going to come down to Secret Paladin versus the Aggro Shaman from Reynad. If I remember correctly, based on the bans, both players banned Warlock away. So this is one of those matchups that's going to be really close. A lot of players tend to agree that this matchup is a very close one in regards to who's favored. So it all comes down to this.
Yeah, I would definitely say that the Shaman's got to be favored in this matchup. In addition to the Rat having Repentance in his deck, he's also got a copy of Ragnaros. And neither of those cards are really contributing to the early game, where it's like that's where everything comes from, is those few early stages of the game. As much as I would love to be able to attack with my hero power from Savage Roar and then also hero power again and attack a second time, your hero power doesn't give you Wind Fury. So Reynad did not miss lethal on the turn where it looked like he had lethal. Would need to attack twice with his hero power in order to get it. Perfectly played from him. I will continue to stress that. An opening hand from the Rat. Repentance shielded me about Blessing King, so I imagine he's pitching back that Repentance. And Reynad again draws 2 Doomhammers. With Shaman, wow. This is so brutal.
Yeah, he's going to need early game creatures. You stressed it earlier. This matchup is all about the early board. Whoever takes control of the early board tends to win the game. And that's a much better hand from the Rat than Reynad has, unless he picks up like a Tunnel Trog right now. And that doesn't look like a Tunnel Trog to me, so this is going to be an uphill battle for Reynad. Going to be tough. Going to be tough.
Yeah, debating coining this Totem Golem here. He's faced turn 1 Secret. The Rat's got Shielded Minibot into Muster for battle, which is a tremendous opening from him right now.
It's also Repentance up. So if he coins out the Totem Golem, it's just going to get eaten up by the Shielded Minibot. It's only going to get 3 damage in, and it means Reynad's not going to have a play for turn 2 unless he picks up a 1-drop, which he does have 5 minion 1-drops and 4 spell 1-drops in the deck. So it's still like a third of his deck is 1-drops. But, you know, you never want to be in a position where you're relying on that to get you through the game.
Yeah, Rat even picks up options for turn 2.
Yeah.
But I think I like the Haunted Creeper just a little bit more because it's getting you on the board better. Reynad, no action on turn 2. This opening hand has been so brutal for him so far. And the Rat picks up Mysterious Challenger to add to this. Turn 4 looks good, turn 5 looks good, turn 6 looks good. This game might have ended just now, TJ.
Yeah. There's a 1-drop.
Feral Spirit going to help clean up this entire board here. Unless the Rat can pick up something even better to do on turn 4. He's going to trade his whole board. We'll be left with Shield and Minibot and a token afterwards versus 2 mana from Reynad, so Lothab going to come down, shut off any spell potential behind that, and the Mysterious Challenger. And Rat at 25. Gotta be feeling comfortable.
Yep. Still, though, he's got to piece together the damage to win. Reynad, if he draws minions to fight back on the board and lots of burn, it's possible, but it's without a...
Yeah, this is a stronghold from the Rat on the attack here, too, actually. Using the Shielded Minibot and the Light's Justice next turn, let Reynad do the trading for you, should he want to do that. This is a much better play because it keeps his presence on the board, which means he gets to continue attacking. And that's something that's really important, is to not isolate your Mysterious Challenger when heading into these turns, because not only do you have Competitive Spirit to buff them all up, but it also just means that you're getting repetitive damage here. So taking the sacrifice of that little bit of damage that he just took yields him more damage later on. So this was a really good play from the Rat.
He does take 2 extra damage, but right now that is pretty inconsequential. He is playing Lothab on a turn where Reynad's going to play Doomhammer anyway. Can Reynad piece together enough? He does have Rockbiter. He's going to put his opponent down to 19. If he draws into second Rockbiter, he does have Crackle. It would be 16 damage plus a guaranteed 3 from Crackle with 4 mana the following turn. There is a possibility, but that would mean he would have to dodge Mysterious Challenger, which we know that's not going to be the case. So he's going to need an extra turn beyond that, which is going to be tough.
Yeah, Rat's taking his time and counting up all this damage here and seeing if this Haunted Creeper matters or not. And I think the push is what matters the most from him right now. Just again, the fact that the Competitive Spirit is coming from that Mysterious Challenger next turn, it represents so much extra damage. So I think his time to kill is actually looking like it's 2 turns right now. He's got turn 6 Mysterious Challenger and a turn after this. So Reynad's got what looks like 2 turns to kill the Rat. And with Crackle in hand and Rockbiter, I definitely think it's possible. 19, 18, he's got 10. And I mean, a Lightning Bolt looks like it could be enough here. Unless the Rat decides he wants to trade into this Haunted Creeper. I mean, not trading into the Haunted Creeper right now enables an extra 5 damage from that Doomhammer.
Yeah.
This is going to trade into it. Is he going to preserve life total, or is he going to trade into these Haunted Creepers with space?
Well, you also have to keep in mind that there's that Noble Sacrifice that's up.
Yeah, exactly. That's why he's going to need to clear off these two in some fashion or another. The question for him is there a difference between him being at 17 and him being at 18?
I don't really think there is, especially with
between Crackle for 3 and Crackle for 4.
Yeah, is there a difference between him having 2 extra damage on the less on the board next turn after Competitive Spirit? Will he still have lethal if he trades away one of the 1/1s? So he opts to just go for the 17 attack. We'll see.
Yeah, it locks things out. Reynad doesn't have damage yet. This one's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 at maximum right now because that Noble Sacrifice it's up. If he attacks, he enables more damage. Like, can he Crackle for 6 on the Mysterious Challenger? I mean, it would just stick around. Well, in his mind, the fact that he only sees 3 secrets right now, it means that the Rat's got some combination of secrets in his hand. And he doesn't know that it's Redemption. But if he knows that it's Redemption, a Crackle for 6 will actually buy him another turn. Or even a Crackle for 5. Maybe a Crackle for just on the Shielded Minibot would work too. 11, 12, 13. Crackle on the Avenge target. There's a lot of different ways that this can happen, actually.
Yeah. Depends where this Avenge falls, though. Where's he going to go? Goes on the Shielded Minibots.
Still 17 points of damage, actually.
Yeah. He can roll a Taunt Totem. Would that block enough? There'd be 7 plus 6, 13, 14, 15.
That was the last one's Competitive Spirit.
Yeah.
It's a taunt. Doesn't roll a taunt.
No. And Competitive Spirit will close out the game.
Very, very close set from these two. Honestly, it was an excellently played match by both of these. Either one of them could have come out on top on this one. If Reynad didn't have such a poor opening hand in this one, I dare say he would have won this match. But the fact that he opened up with Totem Golem into nothing, into Feral Spirit that gets eaten by the board, into kind of nothing, into Doomhammer was just not enough. His opening hand needed to be a little bit better, but made the most of what he had. I mean, the fact that he even had a chance to climb out of that situation is pretty astonishing.
Sort of rough for both players to run into a strong opponent in such an early round, being the round of 128. But the Rat moves on to play another day. Unfortunately, that means Reynad has been eliminated from the tournament, but not without some great games that I'm sure he can be proud of. Coming up next, we are going to continue, I believe, with the round of 128. We do have a matchup between Super JJ and Anthony. So that should be a really exciting matchup. Super JJ is always a fun player to watch. Once again, make sure you guys head over to the website, enter in for your chance to win a Cyberpower Gamer Extreme 1000 PC. There's a banner right below the stream that you can click on or bring you right to the website, and the form is right on the front of the screen. Also, of course, if you're at PAX East, make sure you check out the Battlezone Beta app. Just search for Battlezone Beta. And I think we do have the winners for today, but you can participate over the next 2 days at PAX. Focusol, Genius Panda, Deus, Neuro, and Heisenberg were the winners for the app ladder challenge today. So if you're going to be there the next couple of days, make sure you download the app and start playing. You could win some prizes too. But we are going to take a quick commercial break before we jump into the next match. So don't go anywhere, guys. More Hearthstone Major at PAX East presented by One Nation of Gamers will continue right after this.